Welcome to the latest installment of Disaster Politics, Trump Edition, where wildfires aren't just burning homes, they're setting Twitter ablaze too. As flames rage in Los Angeles, the president-elect has once again turned a natural disaster into a political battlefield, pointing fingers faster than a fire hose sprays water. Blaming the Biden-Newsom duo for everything from dry hydrants to possibly inventing climate change, Trump has proposed his own solution. Let the beautiful, clean, fresh water flow? Forget science or logistics. This is drama, folks, and Trump is determined to keep it trending. So buckle up, because if history is any indicator, these flames aren't the only thing that's about to get out of control. Natural disasters as political weapons? It sounds absurd, but that's exactly what we're seeing unfold in Los Angeles right now. 6 massive wildfires are ravaging the city, and somehow it's become a battleground for political point scoring.
Well, that's certainly a provocative way to frame it. Can you break down what's actually happening on the ground?
Absolutely. We're looking at walls of fire devouring entire neighborhoods, forcing tens of thousands to evacuate. At least 5 people have lost their lives. But instead of a unified crisis response, we're seeing a political showdown between Donald Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom.
That's pretty shocking. How is Trump involved, given that he's not even back in office yet?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Trump's already launched into a full-scale attack on Newsom's handling of the crisis through social media posts. He's making claims about California diverting water to protect something called the Delta smelt, which he dismissively calls a worthless fish, suggesting that's why fire hydrants are running dry.
Oh wow, that's quite an accusation. But is there any truth to it?
Not really. While some hydrants in Pacific Palisades did run dry early Wednesday, water officials have confirmed there's plenty of water in Southern California. The real challenge is the logistics of getting enough water to where it's needed, especially given how quickly these fires are spreading.
So it sounds like Trump's claims are more about political messaging than actual fire management. How are other leaders responding to this crisis?
That's where we see some stark contrasts. Even Ron DeSantis, who's had plenty of conflicts with Newsom, is offering prayers and assistance. Meanwhile, Biden immediately issued a major disaster declaration and started mobilizing federal resources.
Interesting. You know, this reminds me of Trump's handling of other natural disasters during his first term. Do you see any patterns emerging?
Absolutely. His response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico showed similar political battles overshadowing actual relief efforts, and his COVID-19 response often seemed more focused on political messaging than public health. It's a concerning trend where crisis management becomes secondary to political point scoring.
That's a crucial point. How do you think this approach might affect future disaster preparedness and response?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. If states worry about political retribution during crises, it could seriously impact their long-term planning and resource allocation. Imagine being a state official, knowing that asking for help might lead to public attacks from the president-elect.
That's a chilling thought. And what about the actual human cost of all this political maneuvering?
You know, that's what's truly heartbreaking here. We're talking about families losing everything, churches burned to the ground, schools destroyed. Newsom's response to Anderson Cooper really captured that disconnect. People are literally fleeing, people have lost their lives, and this guy wanted to politicize it.
It's hard to fathom how anyone could see this devastation and think about political gain. Do you think this reflects a broader shift in American political culture?
Unfortunately, I think it does. We're seeing a trend where even natural disasters become opportunities for political point scoring rather than moments of national unity. The role of social media in all this can't be understated. Trump's posts on Truth Social, the rapid-fire responses, the immediate politicization, it's creating this new dynamic where disasters become political events almost instantly.
That's a sobering thought. How do you think this might play out during Trump's second term, especially in states that opposed his election?
Well, based on what we're seeing now, it could be a preview of a very divisive approach to disaster management. The irony is that effective disaster response requires exactly what this political environment makes impossible: cooperation, trust, and the ability to put aside differences for the common good.
So, what can be done? Is there any way to depoliticize natural disasters and focus on actually helping people?
That's the big challenge we're facing. I think it's going to require a fundamental shift in how we approach these crises. We need leaders who can rise above the political fray during emergencies, media that focuses on the human impact rather than the political drama, and citizens who demand unity and effective action from their representatives.
Those are some lofty goals. Do you see any signs of hope in that direction?
You know, despite all the negativity, there are still countless examples of people coming together during these fires. Firefighters risking their lives, communities rallying to support evacuees, neighboring states offering assistance. So the spirit of cooperation is still there at the grassroots level. The challenge is getting that same spirit to permeate our political discourse.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the political drama and forget about the everyday heroes on the ground.
Exactly. And that's really what we need to keep our focus on. While politicians are fighting on social media, there are real people out there losing everything, and real heroes working tirelessly to save lives and property.
So what should our listeners be watching for as this situation develops?
Well, a few key things. First, keep an eye on how federal disaster aid is allocated and whether political considerations seem to be influencing that process. Second, watch for any changes in how California and other fire-prone states approach their long-term fire prevention and management strategies. And finally, pay attention to how this crisis is being framed in different media outlets and by different political figures.
Those are great points. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is that we're at a critical juncture in how we handle national crises. The politicization of natural disasters isn't just a political issue. It has real, potentially life-threatening consequences. As citizens, we need to demand better from our leaders and remember that in times of crisis, our shared humanity should always come before political divisions.
Well said. Thanks for this insightful discussion on such a complex and timely issue.
Thank you. And to our listeners, stay safe out there and remember, in times of crisis, how we treat each other matters more than ever.